Hello and welcome to the Marketing Compass podcast. This is the show for all the students there who want guidance in the marketing field, where you learn how to navigate and choose the right path that you love in marketing. And today on this episode, we have Jennifer with us. How are you doing, Jennifer?
Doing great. I'm so excited to share all my experience today.
Oh, that's perfect. Jennifer, if you could give a little bit of introduction about yourself, that would be great.
Yeah, so I'm Jennifer. I majored in psychology and now I work as a growth marketer for an education platform. But I've had many years in startups, starting from when I was in university to even now working on my own content creation profiles and stuff. Um, but I'll dive way more into that as the podcast progresses.
All right. So, of course, we all start as college students and then we go on this discovery journey to what we actually want to do. So, what initially drew you towards the marketing field and how did you discover it?
Yeah, I feel like it was kind of an accident because so in university, I started out by like just exploring what I was interested in. One of those things was knitting. So I started a knitting club at my school, but to promote the club, I needed to make all these social media posts and like posters and all these things. And that led me to my internship in also in my school, which was like a communications and marketing internship because I already had experience like making posters and social media posts just by starting my own thing. And then from there, it kind of snowballed, and then everything was just marketing stuff. But I was actually interested in UX design near graduation because that's what I wanted to go into. But as I learned more about it and tried to get more experience, it was actually like I realized maybe I didn't like it and I preferred marketing. So like it's just more doing these different things and then learning what you like, and then like no knowledge that you learned will ever be wasted because right now I even use some UX things that I learned in my marketing.
That's really wonderful. So, what can you tell us a little bit about your job role? What are you exactly doing, and why did you choose to focus on that part of marketing?
Yeah. Okay. Whenever I talk about what I do, I feel like people. Okay, let me explain. I work in an education startup, and in startups, you kind of have to do everything. So, as a growth marketer, which is my title, technically you run experiments. Like you look at the data, you run experiments on the website, the emails, and other channels, or like other experiments you can think of, and you like basically just try to increase the company's revenue and sales. But for me, since I work in a startup and it's very small, each person has a lot of impact. So I actually do all of that, like the experimentation stuff I talked about, but I also actually make the changes myself on the website. I used to make some social media posts. I write the emails, I do the newsletter, I run the events. I also do some user research and conduct like user interviews, and then I use that to like write product requirement documents, which is like I guess it's product marketing and not growth marketing. Honestly, when you're in a startup, the lines just get kind of blurred. So I'd say I do a bit of everything, but I like that because otherwise I just get bored. I want to do a little bit of everything since I'm a generalist, and I feel like that's how I learn a lot. But it's definitely not for everyone.
So, how has your journey evolved since you started? Because you said you took psychology and then you started a knitting club in university, and then that's how you got
Yeah.
into marketing. And what were the key lessons that you learned along the way?
Yeah, so I'd say it's mainly just taking action and doing things that you're interested in. And then as you do that, more opportunities relating to that interest will come. And then you just like kind of find your path. Because I didn't know I was going to end up here. I had no idea what I was going to do when I graduated. I just knew that I didn't want to be a therapist or I didn't want to work as a researcher. So I was like, I don't know what I can do with my psychology degree. But wherever you work with people, you can use psychology. There's this website called growth.design, and it's all about how you can use psychology in marketing and in your product to make people like it more and to make it easier to use for people as well. So I was like, oh wow, I didn't know that some of the things that I learned in my degree, I it just like seems obvious for me to do. But when I talk about it with other people, they're like, oh my gosh, you're so smart. Like, how did you know how to do this? But for me, I was like, this is obvious information. Like, because I learned it in my degree. And I guess the other thing is just like really try and learn as much as you can. because when I was in school, I actually also started my own startup. So it's because I said yes to a bunch of opportunities. So I was in student politics, I was in like a lot of different things where I met people, and we all kind of came together and we started this club together, which eventually turned into a startup. But since the startup was no longer like, it was its own thing, it wasn't a school club anymore, I had to go out there and learn by myself. So I was Googling like resources for startups, and I just had to do a lot of education on like YouTube and Google by myself. Now it's a lot easier with ChatGPT, but um, that has been like super valuable because that's how I eventually got my current job.
Uh, now, that's really interesting because you have a lot of things in your past, because you were so curious enough to go into everything that has led you to what you are today, because you do know, because you have
Yeah.
your own personal brand as well. You have close to 70,000 followers as well. So how does it feel to, be an influence in people's life in the productivity hacks aspect, even the growth marketings aspect? How does that feel?
Yeah, if it's honestly confusing at first because when you're a business owner, you basically no one's telling you what to do, right? Like you have to make your own decisions, but then the decisions you make can have a lot of impact, so it can get confusing. But I'm very grateful because um like every day I get emails and comments and everybody's like, "Oh, thank you so much for this. Like it's really helping my life." And it just makes me so happy to be able to like share stuff that I thought was normal, that I live my life, but everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, this is genius." And like it's something that I am interested or like I enjoy doing as well. Like it's very fun for me to make videos and to write like my newsletter articles because I have a newsletter every single week that goes out to like 10, 11K subscribers. So I always actually wanted to be a writer when I grew up, when because I loved reading books as a kid. I loved like just writing stories and stuff. And I gave up on that dream, but then I realized because I was just doing things that I enjoyed, I kind of made my way back, and now I write newsletters and I enjoy it every week. So it's just like doing things that you enjoy, and then that leads you to more opportunities to do more things that you like.
So you have a bit more understanding about all the aspects of marketing. You have experience with design, experience with copywriting, because as you said, you used to like being a writer as well, and even the analytics aspect of it. So, in your experience, what do you think? What skills and qualities are essential to be successful in the field of marketing?
Honestly, I think not enough people talk about soft skills because I'm always hearing like learn this tool or like learn this aspect of marketing. But the only reason I was able to do that was because I had the soft skills and like the passion. So that like enables you to do so much more. So number one is like you need to be curious and ready to learn because there are a lot of people at my school who like were put in similar situations as me, but they didn't start a startup. They didn't do their own research. They weren't like proactive in going out there and seeking resources and asking for help and getting mentorship. There were so many resources available. It's just you got to be proactive to go out and seek them. So because I was curious and I asked a lot of questions, that enabled me to start my own startup while I was in university, and then eventually that led me to my current marketing job now. So curiosity is number one, and like being proactive, actually taking action. The other thing I would say is communication, because I had all of this extracurricular experience. So like student politics, I was doing a bunch of stuff outside of school as well, like volunteering for different organizations. I had my own startup. I was a part of many mentorship programs as a mentee and a mentor. I was a public speaker for my graduation ceremony, but then I was also invited to a bunch of different stuff after people heard about my startup because I was like sharing everything online. I had to really understand communication skills, and that helped me in work a lot because at work we actually help people get hired, and we talked to a lot of recruiters and hiring managers, and they all said that entry level people and students they did not like they were not good at communication, whether it's written communication or like verbal communication. And an example is that usually when you talk to people and in school, it's like this roundabout way of like getting your point across. Like you talk more about feelings sometimes or like setting the context. You have like a 10-page minimum paper that you need to write. But in the workplace, it's completely different. Like you need to, your boss is like paying you by the hour, or like, time is money basically. So if you can save people time and you can be clear, a lot of people appreciate it. Because, like, for example, if you're trying to send a Slack message, the first line should be the key takeaway, and then you can link more context underneath that and then have screenshots so it's easier for people. And I think because I got to practice those communication skills with all my extracurriculars at work in my Slack workspace, everybody's always like, Jen, you're doing amazing. Like, this is such great work. And that's because I learned how to properly communicate that work. But I've seen other people, they were working really hard. Like, they were maybe doing even more work than me, but they didn't know how to properly communicate that. So it was just like nobody saw it, and they didn't get recognized as much, or they felt like underappreciated. So communication is a big one that nobody talks about, that I think everybody should learn, regardless of if you want to go into marketing or not.
Uh, that's really wonderful. I think a few communication plays a really good problem because one of the main factors that I feel like a lot of people face is if they want to voice out something, they have to think 10 times in their head before actually asking or saying it. Because in their head, they go like, what will this person think if I ask this? Or what will this person think if I say this? Right now, of course, on LinkedIn, on the socials, because at the moment in the generation that's there right now, everyone's putting out stories, putting out reels, getting out so many followers. Everything is so glorified, right? And people sitting at home, when they watch it, they feel very guilty, and they be like, like myself, I sometimes feel guilty that oh, this person's life is really good, this person's life is really good, but there are dark days, there are bad days that are not shown and not talked about, right? So can you discuss, or can you tell us a significant challenge or obstacle you faced in your marketing career and how you overcame it?
Yeah, I think there's a lot. The most recent one is like regarding my own business, where I think when you run your own business, there's either, well, first of all, there's like no one to tell you what to do. So you can get a little bit confused. You have to like think longer term, think strategy, think higher level, like basically like CEO, like you have to think top down. But um, there's also like a lot of conflicting advice online. And I think a lot of people get stuck in that trap. Like, even if you don't want to be a business owner, if you just want to learn marketing and like work in a job, you can get stuck in the trap of like always listening to what other people are saying and being like, okay, let me like learn and take notes, but then you don't actually take any action yourself. So like experience is really important, and that's why like at the company I work for, entrylevel.net, every single one of our courses has some kind of experience related to it. Like, you're not just watching videos, you have to actually do the project. um and I think like starting my own startup, getting all the volunteer experience through my clubs and student politics and everything, that really helped me because it was like experience. So no matter what challenges I faced, I felt like I was prepared to deal with it because I had that experience and I had those connections. And if you're talking about a challenge like from when I was in university and trying to land a job, I think maybe it would be just like confusion about what career is best for me. Because for some reason, I thought that whatever career I picked, I had to stick with forever. So I was like, I like so many different things. I don't know how I'm gonna pick. I don't know what job I'm gonna get after graduation. Like, I didn't know what was going on. I just knew that I liked a bit of design and I liked a bit of marketing, and it was just, it was hard to pick. So I think a lot more people should realize that what you pick right now doesn't mean you have to be in it forever. If you like it enough right now, just try it. And then if it doesn't work out, you'll still learn something new. Like, I learned UX design and I tried to get some experience in UX design, but I realized I didn't want that as a career. So I got a job in marketing, and my UX knowledge is still useful today. So it's not like it was a waste, even if I just changed. And it was pretty easy to change as well. So just don't get stuck in that mindset of like, you don't know what to pick, so you don't do anything. It's just, you can always change it later. So like the most important thing is take action right now to get experience.
uh, of course, you tend to watch a lot of YouTube videos, you tend to read a lot of blogs, because that is how you get, with experience, that is how you get to that level where you are at. So there is another thing, other aspect, because self learning is also important, but there is also another aspect of it where it is a mentorship and networking, right? That also plays an important role in a person's life, person's career as well. So what role did mentorship or networking play in your career in marketing? And if you can, you give us a few tips in building a strong professional network as well?
Yeah. I think a lot of people think mentorship is this like super structured professional environment. Like you meet with your mentor once a week and then you ask them questions. But the most valuable mentors I've had is by joining communities and then just talking to my peers. Not necessarily people who were like further along than I was, but just like people who were kind of on the same journey. And then we just shared, and I got so much more motivated and we just learned from each other. So I think peer mentorship is going to be one that might be more accessible to you. It was way more useful for me to join a community than to like seek professional mentorship, because I feel like I learned a lot more when I was able to just be casual and like ask random questions. I also learned a lot by mentoring other people. So I feel like this isn't talked about a lot because everyone thinks of mentorship as this thing where you have to like find somebody who's further along than you, learn from them, but like you can do that, but don't discount the other types of mentorship. Like let's say you find somebody who's a few years behind you, like teaching them everything that you know, and then you'll realize like, oh, I didn't realize that this was an insight that I had. Maybe you can apply that insight in your own life. So with mentorship and networking, I would say like communities is a big one. You like I just googled for a bunch of communities, or like I went on LinkedIn and I searched for some. And even I went on Discord and I searched for someone. I just was an active member. If you're specifically looking for people who are like a bit further along than you, I think there's platforms now that help like ADP list. Um, there's like also a lot of local events that I went to and I currently still go to, and there's like a really nice community of people in different fields, because I feel like I learn a lot from how to collaborate with people and how to communicate with different teams just by going to these events. But again, that's like not really traditional mentorship. It's more like talking to a friend. Um, so I guess if people are looking for guidance, my main suggestion is don't think of it like a structured thing where it's like every week you meet with your mentor and ask questions. I would think of it as more like a collaborative environment where you all want the best for each other and you learn from each other. Even if the mentor is a little bit older than you and not a peer, let's say you ask them questions or you ask them for feedback, that is a form of mentorship. It doesn't have to be a formal meeting every week where you ask questions. Like if you ask them like, "Hey, do you have feedback on this project I'm working on?" Or let's say you're at a hackathon and then people like the judges and mentors there are giving you feedback, then that is kind of like also mentorship that you're learning from. So instead of focusing all your energies on like, I need to find this one perfect mentor who will meet with me once a week, you should be focusing your energy on like learning from all these different people and communities, because first of all it's a lot easier, and second of all I feel like you can learn a lot more.
Of course, those were really good advices that were there. And now, of course, there is always a starting point to things, right? It's not like you directly jump to 50% and then 70%, right? Now, how the people, students that want to start in the a career of marketing and do not know how to, or unsure of where to start, what advice would you give them?
Yeah. So nowadays, if it's too hard to find an internship or a volunteer position, I'd say just start your own thing. It's not for everyone because, like, I feel like it takes a certain type of person to start your own startup, but it doesn't even have to be a startup. It can be like a school project where you just like make an Instagram page and you try and grow it, or like you make a website and you try and grow it. It can be completely anonymous as well. Like, you don't have to show your face, but while you're in school, it's like the best time to experiment because you have the university to support you. Like my university gave startups like and student clubs a lot of funding. So start your own thing. That's the easiest way to get experience and like try things out without too much pressure. And it doesn't have to be like anything like a startup, because like once you start, you'll start being like, okay, now this is what I need to know, and then you'll Google and find out how to do it and implement it right away, and it's a lot easier to learn that way. Like when I started my own startup, I didn't know a lot of the startup terms, so I had to like be forced to go out there and search for it myself. And I would not have done that if it was like part of a course or something. Like it was just better for me to learn by doing it. And if you don't like, I feel like starting your own thing, a lot of people might get scared because they're like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. But it's like you can Google it, you can chat GPT it, you can join communities and get advice from other people. Like it's a lot easier to get mentorship and network and get advice if you're working on something, and then people can give you feedback on it. Even if it's something like a newsletter, a blog, a random website that you promote anonymously on Reddit or Indie Hackers or something. Um, the most important thing is just like get that experience. And the easiest way for me to get that experience was to start my own thing.
Now, as you mentioned ChatGPT a lot, and as we know, like AI has helped marketers a lot in this field. So, how do you stay updated with the latest trends and developments in marketing? How important do you think is continuous learning in the field of marketing?
Yeah, I'd say it's really important. Like if I feel like marketing is always changing, so if you want to stay up to date, then you kind of have to um like know what's going on. Especially like with ChatGPT, like if you have a marketer who's using ChatGPT and can create like a blog post really fast versus a marketer who is not and is making things really slowly, then like more people would want to hire the one that works faster and is more effective, assuming the quality is still good. Because like what I use ChatGPT for is like helping brainstorming and writing outlines, because it's a lot easier for me to get started and just go in and edit those drafts than to like start completely from scratch. So that's the other thing. Like I feel like learning these tools and like using ChatGPT, it's very easy to do if you already have that soft skill or trait of just being curious. Because I wouldn't call myself like a super techie person. Like I don't know how to like code or anything like that. But I use ChatGPT because I got curious. The other thing about marketing is I feel like part of the reason why I said you should get your own experience, and like whether it's by starting your own startup or not, it's because I feel like you can be a lot more creative that way. So an example is yesterday at a work meeting, we were tasked with a fun game to play, which was market something that seems unmarketable. And my team got a water repellent sponge, and all of my team members, I think they thought of it from like a normal perspective, and they're like, regular sponges suck, they get moldy, they're wet, they're gross to touch. This water repellent sponge might help you wash dishes easier. But me, from like, because I have all of this experience I just mentioned, but also I feel like I think more creatively because of those experiences, I'm like, no, you guys gotta think bigger. Like people are not gonna buy washing dishes. They need something special. So I was like, what about like world domination? Humans are made of 60% water. You use this water repellent sponge to repel away the bad humans, and then eventually you'll end up like dominating the world. And then I feel like that unlocked something in my team, because every single idea after that was super creative, and like these unique ideas are what goes viral that people remember because it's like a fun story, right? So all the ideas after that were like, what if you could become a mermaid, because this is water repellent? You just take it with you in the ocean, and then you can explore but still be able to breathe basically underwater. And then somebody else was saying like you can use it to protect you from like tornadoes and hurricanes, and like you don't need to bring a raincoat or anything. You can just use the water repellent sponge that can be stored in your purse, and like it doesn't even get wet, so you can just put it back in your purse after. And I was like, people would buy this. Like this is so much more effective than being like, oh, you don't have to touch a moldy sponge when you're washing dishes. So that came from experience. Because I also started my own, like one of my Instagram videos went viral, and the video that went viral was something like a unique idea like that. So I feel like since I was able to have that experience, I was able to come up with these more effective strategies and then become a better marketer. So that's why I'm like pushing everyone so hard to like start their own thing, start your personal brand, because I always get messages of people being like, I see the cool things you're posting. Can I please hire you for some marketing thing? Um, and I think that's a good position to be in, because you want to like post the cool things you're doing, and then you just attract people who want to hire you.
Uh, of course, the water sponge thing, the water repellent thing. It was very interesting because I was also wondering. Okay, that is very unmarketable. Because as a marketer myself, I would also come into the aspect of coming up with ideas. Uh, but coming to the starting point again, what is marketing according to you? And if a 5 year old had to, if you had to explain to a 5 year old, how would you explain it to her?
Yeah, I'd say marketing is promoting something that somebody wants. And I would differentiate sales from marketing, because sales is like you're trying to get them to buy. But for me, marketing is more like you're just promoting it. And then if people want to buy, they can. But then obviously, if you promote it better and you use better messaging, like, you know, world domination slash becoming a mermaid versus like cleaning your dishes without touching a gross sponge. If you use different messaging, like some forms of marketing can be better than the others. But to me, it's just like promoting something. I think there's a lot of marketing out there that's like kind of deceptive, where it's like, they try to manipulate people using these psychology tricks. But then I'm like, okay, if you have to manipulate someone to buy your products, then I feel like that's like not good marketing. Like you should market your and message in a way that makes people want to buy your product naturally, because it actually addresses a problem that they have. So for example, um like, you know people might not need, like, the washing dishes with the sponge example. People already have sponges, but if you frame the problem as like, have you ever wanted to like explore the ocean, like you have to really understand the user here and who's buying your product. And then let's say somebody is like super into mermaids and wants to explore the ocean. Like if you frame it that way, in that problem, with that creative messaging, then that to me is like effective and creative marketing, because it's framing it in a way where it's like something that people would actually want, but it's also not really using any deceptive tactics, like, you know I don't know. There's like a lot of things out there that are kind of deceptive and like morally gray, but I feel like that's not true marketing, because if you have to resort to that to get people to buy your stuff, then it's like, I don't know, it just feels weird to me.
Uh, Now, one of the main things as a college student is the fear of applying to your first job, right? Like, oh, whether companies will see me fit, the job descriptions, the lengthy job descriptions that they provide. And could you tell us how can a college student approach this fear of applying to jobs, their first job, or how could they stand out to the employer that's hiring for that position?
Yeah. So I feel like I have such hot takes on this because of my own journey, but that's why I'm like, you need to get experience, because that's going to give you the confidence, to, because like I had that confidence and it was very easy for me to land jobs. Like people were reaching out to me, like I had my own personal brand online, so it was a lot easier. But to stand out, like, if first of all, don't self reject. Like I see this in a lot of people. Yesterday I was even talking to someone and they're like, they probably won't want me anyway, like I'm not enough or whatever. I'm like, you don't know until you try. Like you have to shoot your shot. Because some things I just apply and then I forget about it, and then later they're like, oh, you were accepted, and I'm like, oh wow, this is actually pretty great. Because then if you don't apply, that's like you won't get it for sure. But then if you apply, like if you don't get it, your life doesn't even change and it's like not that much of an effort. But then if you do get it by chance, then like your life could change forever. So I just say, first of all, don't self reject. You have to just like put yourself out there. I know it's easier said than done, but like if I think back in my past, it's usually the opportunities that I didn't go for that I regret. So like if you think about yourself from the future, be like, will I regret not trying my best? Um, the other thing is, to stand out, you really have to like do a lot of extra things nowadays. Like you can't just send in the job application. Like you have to be posting about the cool projects that you've done. I always reach out to the people who are hiring, like the entire team, and I message them on LinkedIn and send a connection request. I sometimes I stalk the actual company's profile, and then I'm like trying to get my hands on the emails of these people and like sending a custom introduction message. After an interview, you need to send a follow-up thank you note, because not a lot of people do that, but that goes back to communication that I mentioned and why it's so important, because a lot of people don't know that you have to follow up, like follow up and then say thank you. So like let's say if a company isn't responding to you, like people are busy, you need to follow up. Like I usually follow up like 3 times at least, which everybody's like, oh my gosh, isn't that like annoying? But I'm like, if I was in their shoes, I would appreciate the follow-ups a lot, because my inbox can get messy. So if they follow up, I'm like, this is actually so helpful, thank you. um, so I feel like that's what you need nowadays to stand out. Personal brand, that can be the project that you start yourself, and then like really good communication, and you just have to like be proactive and put yourself out there and like really try and reach out to people, because I think people are willing to help. Like especially on LinkedIn, like if you message random people on LinkedIn and you make the note custom to them, then most people are willing to help. The other thing is, don't be scared of like wasting time, because it's like, if this is a company that you're going to work in for like the next year or two, you want to be sure that you're happy in that company. So in when I was job searching, I didn't mass apply to a bunch of companies, because I'm like, what if I'm going to hate working there? So I picked very specific companies to apply for, and I invested the time researching them so I can be sure I'll actually like working there. And because my application was so much better and like I stood out by messaging all these people, I ended up getting the job. But then it was that plus the experience. So that's kind of how I stand out, and why I was like mentioning getting your own experience, communication, things like that earlier.
Looking back on your journey, you've had this wonderful journey from university to where you are right now. And I would call you an influencer because you have a huge following, right? You have the influence in people's lives. Uh, if you had to receive one piece of advice you wish you had received when you were starting out in marketing, what would that
I would say just take action, because like for example, the knitting club I was talking about, I actually delayed starting it by like a year or two. So, because I was like, I don't know how to do this. I'm a complete beginner. Like, I just graduated high school. Like, what am I doing here? I'd rather wait for somebody else to start it. But then all my friends were like, you should start it. Like, you're the perfect person. Like, you're the only knitter that I know. And I'm so glad I did start it, because not only was I able to talk to a lot of other people, and it was a fun time. I got to teach people how to knit. People nowadays sometimes they see me at like an event or something, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you're the person who taught me how to knit," and it's so nice to hear. And I'm just like, again, thinking back, if I hadn't started it, I would have totally regretted not going for it and not taking that action. Another recent example of this is for my own personal brand. I started this thing called like a 30-day habit consistency challenge, because I'm in productivity. A lot of people are like, I struggle staying consistent and being productive. And I actually wanted to start this back in February, but I didn't, because I was like, I have to write 30 days worth of emails. Like, it's too much work. I have to like block out an hour or two just to get all of that done. So I actually delayed until May this month. So in those 5-ish months, 4 or 5-ish months. My math isn't great. In those months, I didn't do anything. But now in May, I actually did start. But instead of it being like a big, writing all these 30-day emails in one chunk, I ended up writing one email per day and splitting it up so it's more manageable. And now I'm so glad I did it, because I'm getting email replies from people saying like, this is so helpful. Like, I appreciate all the advice that you share. And if I'm thinking like, if I hadn't just taken action on that, then none of this would have happened. I would not have learned any of this. So I totally would have regretted not doing it. So you just really have to think of your future self and be like, would I regret not trying my best here? And let that motivate you to take action.
uh, if you could give us a few resources that you found helpful when you started out in marketing for as a college student, that would be really helpful for the students out there that are looking.
Yeah, I think I already listed some. One was growth.design. I learned so much from that. It's like the psychology and UX of product marketing. The other one is ADP list. You can search for marketers and have personalized one-on-one conversations with them about your career and like hear more about what marketing is like for them. That one is free actually. And then the third one, when I actually got hired as a growth marketer, I realized that my data analysis skills were really bad. And as a growth marketer, you can't have that because you need to be able to analyze data to figure out like what's going on and how to improve conversion rates and stuff. So like I actually have to work in spreadsheets and graphs quite a bit. So I took a course from entry level. It was the data analysis course. So like entry level.net Excel and Tableau course. That was actually really helpful. And my project for that course, when I posted it online, that's what made me go viral and why I have like almost 70K followers on Instagram now. So I highly recommend it, even though I'm biased because I actually work for that company. But the only reason why I found out about this company is because my own startup was also in education and I was doing competitor research, and this company was one of those competitors. So I just connected with everyone in the company and I followed the company on LinkedIn. So when I saw that they had a job posting available, I was like messaging everyone. And so, like, you can see, like, my own experience and startup led me to this job, which also led me to build my own brand and go viral on Instagram. So everything just kind of led to each other because I took those actions on what I liked doing.
Amazing. I think I've taken the entry level data analytics course myself. Growth.design is something that I came across for the first time. I'm pretty sure I will start looking into it as well. So thank you for that. Once again, we've come to the end of the episode. Thank you so much for watching us until the end of the episode. I will leave
Oh,
Jennifer's LinkedIn down and Instagram as well. I will link all of her socials. Do follow her. She's a really helpful person. If you have any doubts, do reach out to her as well. And I will be listing out the resources as well. Thank you so much. I hope everyone has a good day. Thank you. Bye bye.